Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. For some reason, I'm not hearing myself in my headphones here. There we are. That's a little bit better. It's a little bit different every day when we come in here to our Gillespie Group storefront studio. You can come and watch us in person any morning you want. Right here across from the baseball stadium in Lansing. Really, we're only 2 blocks from the Capitol. You can find us right on Michigan Avenue. So you got the Capitol, the governor's office, a bar called the Nut House, and then us. You rank them in any order you wish. But we're right here. We have windows to the street. It's just like the Today Show. We have a lobby with memorabilia, and on the other side, a coffee house with windows looking into the studio so you can pop down, have a cup of coffee, see what it's like to have a radio and TV show. You can be part of the show, too, or you can just sit back and relax or take your meetings here. If you have morning service clubs like B&I groups and that sort of thing, have your meeting here one morning because you never know who you might run into in the studio. Could be the governor, could be a celebrity, could be someone important, could be a business person you've been trying to meet. That's what we're here for. And if you happen to be in the Lansing market, because we're on radio stations all across the state, you can watch us on Fox 47 television. I think on most cable boxes is 7, isn't it? Check it out for yourself. It's Fox 47, and of course we're heard on radio stations in Mount Pleasant and Petoskey and Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, St. Joe, Benton Harbor, and lots of places in between. We're also heard on the internet. If you're in Florida or somewhere else on vacation, you want to check it out, go to MichiganTalkNetwork.com and you can listen live every morning. And all the interviews are podcasted by Tony Cuthbert after the program. So if you sleep in one day and you say, well, I want to hear what's going on, you can log on to MichiganTalkNetwork.com, click on MPS in the morning, and click on podcast. You'll see every interview we had, and you can click on it and listen to it. Might be something you're interested in. So there are all sorts of ways to get us. We're on Facebook, too. We make occasional announcement there. It's Michael Patrick Shields in the morning. And our studio hotline for your opinion is always open, and you always come first. So if you ring in, you get on before anybody else. 888-900-9966 is the number to call. 888-900-9966. And when you go to MichiganTalkNetwork.com, you'll see the ability also to click on YouTube.com. So if you're listening in an area where you can't see us on television, we have YouTube videos there so you can see what it looks like. It's youtube.com/MPS in the AM. Are we fully connected now? We are. You can get to us any old way you like. Now, let's get connected with the news of the day. Here's the anchorman, Gary Austin. Good morning.
Good morning. Later today, Governor Snyder's new budget plan will be out, and House Speaker Jace Bolger says this plan is what most in the state want.
I think he is absolutely earnest in being fair and being simple. I think that he is absolutely being bold, and that's what the voters asked for. The voters asked for bold action.
As a result of the spending plan, Budget Director John Nixon said he does not figure on a lot of people losing their jobs, but he did say in some cases whole programs will come to an end. Right now, the state is facing a sizable deficit, about $1.8 billion, and Nixon says the objective here is to get things balanced without hiking taxes. Michigan's item pricing law that requires a price tag on everything in a store is one step closer to being history because the State House okayed the repeal of the law yesterday, and sponsor Lisa Lyons of Altos says this is just the first step in reinventing the business climate in this state.
It sends a signal to the public that we are here to work. We're here to make Michigan more competitive, to bring jobs to the state, and to get our families working.
So next, the state Senate will take this up, and this is State Rep Wayne Schmidt.
The Item Pricing Modernization Act is a very good first start to showing that Michigan can change its regulation, still protect consumers, and allow for a healthier business climate.
Governor Snyder is a big fan of this, and he says he'll sign it if it reaches his desk. The state's item pricing law has been around since the 1970s, but many stores have argued it's no longer needed with current technology. Severe weather can hit at any time, and all too often for many, it takes a lot of damage to what they own to realize they do not have enough insurance. Of course, stuff can always be replaced, but trying to get your life back in order, often that can be very difficult. Storm damage in Michigan has taken its toll through the years.
Power's down, got to get the tree cut away from the power lines before we can get it hooked back up. One thing to down some power lines, something else entirely to smash right into your house. So in that sense, I guess you're lucky, huh? Yes, we are.
And when a tornado touched down near where this woman lives, in no time, there was a sudden change of scenery.
I planted these trees about 45 years ago, and they're about this tall. And there's two of them there. If you step around, there's another one on the other side. And now they're destroyed. I'll never see any more shade out here probably in my lifetime.
And sadly, not far off, that big tree that used to be in the backyard is simply gone.
That one used to be huge and full. It was a beautiful maple. It was perfect. And now we just have the bottom branches. This other one kind of just looks like a twig standing up with a few little leaves on it. My husband, his great-grandfather planted all the trees on this farm, and we lost all of them. And some of them were 85 years old, so it's nothing that we're ever going to see again. You know, not in our lifetime. We'll never see those huge trees again.
And when exceptionally bad weather hit for this youngster, he could only look on as a guy in his car in water off to the side of the road tried to spin his way out.
So here he is, he's stuck in this ditch, revving his motor, and
Yes.
the engine catches on fire.
Yes, and luckily the sheriff was there to pull him out, or he probably would have gotten killed because the airbag just went off, just boom, and it would have killed him. So.
This is in the midst of the bad weather.
Yeah,
it's raining and it's going crazy.
thunder and lightning, and there's just smoke everywhere.
For some, after severe weather, getting things back to normal can be quite a job.
So what's the worst of the damage you've seen?
Tree through my house.
Right through your house, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Gosh, what floor did it go through?
Just the attic portion.
Just came tumbling right into it, huh?
Blown in, I guess.
So how'd you get it out?
Tree company came in and took it out.
There's a house on the other street that they've got part of a tree through their window. The house next to it, it looks like their whole roof has shifted over a couple inches.
And for many I talked with who before never really took severe weather seriously, they do now.
Pretty much came up out of nowhere. There's nothing. Then all of a sudden, the wind was buffeting the house and everything was moving, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was scary. So, but we weathered it out okay. So
it's going to take a while to get things back to normal, huh?
I think so. We have a lot of picking up to do as far as branches.
So while many I talked with now find themselves paying a lot closer attention to severe weather reports, many too said it's time to make extra sure that insurance policy is up to date.
Make sure you have enough coverage because the price of steel and the price of construction has skyrocketed.
And with the Insurance Institute of Michigan, Lori Connerton agrees. With bad weather being so unpredictable, double-check that insurance policy to make sure you have all the needed coverage.
Well, Gary, she sure is right. The cost to rebuild is going up, and you need to talk to your agent about the cost to rebuild your house the way it is now. If you have a question such as, if a tree falls on my roof, would I have enough insurance to replace it up to the standards that it is now? Call your agent. Ask them about what happens if wind blows out your windows or your siding rips off, if you have hail damage. Those are all questions that your insurance agent can sit down with you and make sure that you have enough insurance to rebuild your house to the standards that it is now.
With news, I'm Gary Austin.
Hey, thanks, Gary. That news report brought to you by AARP, a membership organization leading positive social change and delivering value to people age 50 and over through information, advocacy, and service. Speaking of information, it was the start of the Jay Carney era for President Barack Obama. You know, they have these spokespeople, and they're quite high profile. And Dana Perino, for instance, President George W. Bush spokesperson, was in Grand Rapids recently, just last week, along with Mike McCurry, who was President Clinton's press secretary. So once they're done with the job, they usually go on to a life of high-paid public speaking, books, and that sort of thing. But they meet with the press every single day and try to outline what the president's ideas are. They answer questions instead of the president going out there every day. Here is Jay Carney yesterday. I think he used to be with Time Magazine, didn't he? This is his first day on the job.
I work to promote the president and the messages he's trying to convey to the American people.
Now, I don't mean to be picky, but in the United States of America and in the world, this is probably the number one job, right? The number one spokesperson job that you could possibly have. The leader of the free world is asking you to speak for him. Let's hear it one more time.
I work to promote the president and the messages he's trying to convey to the American people.
Now, we all get a little tongue-tied from time to time, and we all say, well, some of us anyway, from time to time. But wouldn't you have expected the president's spokesperson to be a little more, I don't know, fluent? One more time, if you would, please.
I work to promote the president and the messages he's trying to convey to the American people.
Yeah, well, not a very good debut, is it? 17 minutes after the hour, we've got sports and lots of news stories, including a woman who was found dead at Meijer. Wait till you hear the rest of the story. At 18 after the hour, it's Michael Patrick Shields all across Michigan. 23 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields. We have for you, courtesy of the Associated Press, the details of the Michigan's governor's proposal. This is Rick Snyder. Later today, his budget proposal. We can go through them one by one if you want to, so that you don't have to wait for today. And we're going to try to get Charles Ballard from Michigan State University to go over them with us ahead of time, so you'll have the jump on everybody. You want to hear these now? Let me just give you a couple. Rick Snyder will propose to drop the individual income tax rate from 4.35% to 4.25% on October 1st. The tax will then remain at 4.25% rather than being decreased to 3.9% in future years as scheduled. The governor will eliminate the state income tax exemption for pensions, but Social Security benefits are going to continue to be exempt. The governor will propose to eliminate the Michigan business tax and replace it with a flat 6% corporate income tax on major corporations. The governor will propose to eliminate business credits awarded for films and brownfield redevelopment, the Michigan Economic Growth Authority, etc. Current commitments, though, will be honored, and it will set aside $25 million for film credits from the 21st Century Job Fund. The governor will propose a rolling of funding for universities and community colleges from the general fund to the school aid fund. That's the main funding source for K through 12 schools. Are your eyes glazing over yet? Not yet, because the governor will propose cuts per pupil funds of $300 in addition to the currently budgeted $170 per pupil reduction. So that's going to be interesting to see what the MEA says about that. The governor will propose eliminating statutory revenue sharing payments for cities, villages, and townships, leading to a net savings of $92.1 million. That will impact 509 local units of government. It will increase constitutional revenue sharing by 4% to $659 million. Also, the governor will include a $200 million bonus for it's an incentive is what it is, a revenue sharing program for cities, villages, and townships that meet specific standards, and those standards will be detailed in March. The governor will propose setting a lifetime limit of 48 months for residents who receive welfare payments with exemptions for incapacity and hardship. The governor will also propose eliminating 300 field worker positions from the Department of Human Services. He wants to close a prison that will be named later this year. He wants to reduce the number of Michigan State police posts. That would save $3.2 million. He wants to reduce state aid to libraries in the Department of Education by $2.3 million in the general fund. He is suggesting privatizing food service and prison store operations in Michigan prisons, and let those be competitively bid. And he wants to turn the dairy farm inspection program over to field representatives certified by the Department of Agriculture. So there's your sneak preview at what the governor will say today when he releases his budget. I mentioned I would tell you about something that happened at Meijer. This is in Charlotte. An 83-year-old Charlotte area woman was found dead in her car in a Meijer parking lot 2 days after she died, according to police. Charlotte Police Chief Bill Callahan said Helen Dowker was discovered slumped over in her car at about 10 a.m. on Friday. A manager was alerted by a customer who noted Dowker's body. Callahan said police believe she'd shopped February 9th at the Charlotte Meijer, put her groceries in her car, and died of natural causes after putting the keys in the ignition. She was a short woman and hard to see in the car. A casual observer wouldn't see her, according to Callahan. So we're very sorry to hear that this morning. Also very sorry to hear that Borders is declaring bankruptcy. Michigan's second largest retail filed for bankruptcy protection following a cash crunch that resulted from the Ann Arbor bookseller's inability to adapt to the changing habits of readers. Borders has identified 200 of 642 stores as underperforming. Those will close in the next several weeks. and what will happen next. Those stores are in Utica, Dearborn, Grosse Pointe, Arborland, and Ann Arbor. Those are some of them. The Ann Arbor store, the flagship store, is not on the list. There's going to be a liquidation sale, too, to start off the President's Day weekend. And what will happen next for that homegrown company? You remember there was a time when they revolutionized the industry with the computerized inventory, and hasn't worked out. Robert Gordon is on the other end of our line right now, the head of corporate restructuring and bankruptcy for Clark Hill. Good morning, and thanks for being available.
Thank you, Michael Patrick. It's nice to be with you.
Do you think Borders will be able to survive this bankruptcy? What happens next for the company?
Well, as you just mentioned, that one of the first things they have to do is stop the bleeding, and they have filed papers on the first day of the case yesterday to seek authority to, as you mentioned, liquidate inventory and furniture, fixtures, and equipment at probably 200 stores right away, and they do mention that there could be another 75 stores. So they're trying to shed the underperforming stores. They've also filed what would be called first-day motions, which are motions to obtain authority to basically continue to operate in the ordinary course and avoid any interruption in day-to-day operations. So they filed motions seeking authority to borrow under a new loan facility. They filed motions for authority to pay employee wages as they come due, to pay shippers and warehousemen, to make sure that there's a continuous flow of inventory, to maintain and honor customer programs, so that business continues as usual. And then going forward from there, they will. They've hired DJM, which is an outfit that specializes in retail leases and retail real estate. They will analyze the remaining stores and determine what is the best disposition to make of them. They've also hired an investment banker, Jeffries, to also identify what is the best way for them to try to exit the bankruptcy, whether it's by doing a true reorganization where the company will emerge in much the same form as it is, or there may be a sale of the core assets as a going concern under Section 363 of the Bankruptcy Code, much as we saw with like a Chrysler bankruptcy. But what actually is going to play out in that regard is unclear at this time. The papers do not. When I say the papers, I mean the pleadings that Borders has filed do not indicate exactly what they plan to do on a go-forward basis.
So we don't know. I mean, we pay special attention to it here in Michigan because it's an Ann Arbor-based company that was founded here in Michigan. Does the rest of the literary world care? Do the rest of the world need Borders?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm not necessarily the industry analyst, but it certainly is an industry that has gone through a huge transformation as a result of the electronic age, and how you stay relevant is a really challenging question. There's no doubt that Amazon, well, I shouldn't say no doubt, but if you read the papers in general, analysts say that Amazon and Barnes & Noble were just a little quicker to transform their focus in terms of electronic or online sales and capturing e-reader sales and things of that nature. Whether Borders can transform itself and become profitable again with a remaining core set of stores just remains to be seen, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll keep in touch then with Robert Gordon from Clark Hill on the bankruptcy of Borders Books and Music, and that means stores across the nation will close. Some of them will stay open. Courtney Moulton is the author of Angel Fire from right here in Michigan, and good morning and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you so much.
You're going to be signing books in the state capital area Saturday at Schuler's Books and Music, and this is your very first book, as I understand it, but it's in an area that seems to be the fastest growing area in the literary world, young adult fiction.
Yes.
Why is that so popular all of a sudden?
I think that the young adult genre has a lot of cross-genre appeal. Not just teens read it. It's, for high school students, but for some reason, adults well into their 40s and 50s love this genre as well, and I think we owe a lot of credit to Harry Potter and the Twilight series.
You know what? I wonder if that means that adults' intellect is going down and teenager intellects are going up.
You know, what's really funny about that is a lot of people will say, dumb down, YA literature for teenagers, and that's not correct at all.
Teenagers are not teenagers anymore, right?
No,
intellectually.
Exactly. I think we have a lot to thank for the internet and that sort of thing. Kids just have a great opportunity to learn as much as they can, any way possible at any moment of the day.
Do you expect Angel Fire will be read on Kindles as well as in the printed version, especially for people that age?
Yes, it's available in ebook on Kindle, and you can get it at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. They've really taken advantage of the electronic, revolution.
How did you get a major publisher to publish your very first book?
Well, I actually queried different agents in New York City, and one signed me, and a few months
That's
later,
the hard part, isn't it?
Yes. Very
You just knocked on doors of agents and one of them liked your work?
Kind of. More of a form of email, a lot of them.
You did?
Yes. We in order to attract the attention of an agent, you would write a query letter, which is sort of a very, very, very short resume with a small sample of your writing. And if they like it, they'll request the full manuscript. And most agents get 30,000, 40,000 queries a year.
Yeah. How did you get yours to stand out?
I wrote a pretty good query letter. Ironically, a lot of my query is in the official synopsis that my publisher uses for my book, so it makes me feel kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then they shopped it, and did you have the whole manuscript finished?
Yes.
Okay, so you had a finished product.
Yes.
Did they edit it much?
I did about 5-6 months of edits before HarperCollins offered, and then after that, I only did about a week and a half. It was pretty solid by the time.
I noticed you call it a trilogy already.
Yes, there's 3 books planned.
And that's pretty ambitious. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. I mean, you have done the impossible. You got an agent to get your attention. You got the agent to sell it to a major publisher. Have they bought the other 2 books in the trilogy, too?
Yep, all 3 books.
It's, this is like a miracle that you've done. It's not easy. It's almost impossible to get this done. Congratulations.
Thank
you.
It
really is. And, for anybody who thinks that it's not easy, you have hit lightning in a bottle with Angel Fire by HarperCollins. And Allison Moulton, 24 years old, lives right here in Michigan. CourtneyAllisonMoulton.com is where we can learn more about you. But if we put Angel Fire into Amazon.com, it'll turn up?
Yep.
And, of course, you can be at Schuler's on Saturday if you're in the state capital area. 2 o'clock? That's the Eastwood store, right?
Yes, up in Eastwood Township from 2 to 5.
Congratulations with Angel Fire. We'll look forward to
much.
talking to you more about it in the future. There it is, a success story. Tell me something good. That's what we say on this program. There is something definitely good. 35 minutes after the hour. Bad news for Borders, good news for Courtney Moulton. Stay tuned. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Tigers outfielder Clete Thomas, apparently getting ready for spring training here, says he's ready to go. You'll remember he missed most of last season following what's called a microfracture. And it was a surgery he had to have on his knee. And he had the procedure in June. Should be able to play in some of the Grapefruit League games, and nearly made the trip north with the Tiger squad last year after spring training, but was sent to AAA Toledo. And Carlos Guillen also continuing his rehab from the same procedure in September. He's not sure if he's going to be ready for opening day, but he's taking batting practice and jogging in Lakeland. He says he's pain-free. What about Mark Sorensen, though, the young guy who pitched for Michigan State University? He's the son of Larry Sorensen, who pitched in the All-Star game and pitched for the University of Michigan, ironically. Now Larry lives in Grand Rapids, and Mark Sorensen lives wherever baseball takes him. And now it's Lakeland, Florida. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Thanks for having me.
You're in Lakeland right now?
I'm not. I report on Monday.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to get there till Monday, and then, and what will be your status with the team at that stage in the system?
You know what? I finished last year. I spent all year in Lakeland, and so I go to spring training this year, hoping to make that AA Erie team. You know, I've progressed every single year. I've moved up every single year. So that's the next logical step for me.
You played in Grand Rapids for a while, and then you spent the time with Lakeland last year. So Erie is the next stop on the way to the big team. Is that how it works?
Erie is the next step. Yeah, so you go to spring training and you fight for a job.
So basically, spring training, they look at everybody, see how they've progressed, and they decide at what level in the system you're going to be. Is that how it works?
Exactly. You know, they have somewhat of a sense of it from the year before and how you performed at the level you were at. But then they bring everybody together in Lakeland and they sort you out from there.
What do you do in the off season to stay sharp and be ready for this? Because it sounds like a pressure-packed, month.
It is. We have a very detailed off-season program. I was lucky enough this year that I spent the off-season in Northville, Michigan, and so the Tigers let me work out down at Comerica Park.
Oh, good.
So I've done all my weight training and my throwing and stuff down there, and it's been great. You know, I got to interact with all the guys down there, and some of the big leaguers and coaches have been in and out, so it's been a great experience.
So you're a known quantity to them, and they know you personally, and you've seen how they operate. Do you think you're on the track to make the show, as they call it, be with the Tigers there at Comerica?
You know, I feel good at this point. I've progressed every year. I've moved up a level every year. I had a strong year last year in High A Lakeland, and once you get to AA or AAA, that's when it gets serious. You're a phone call away. And so that's what I'm hoping for this year.
How much, if you don't mind me asking, let's say you make the Erie team, how much money does a player at that level make?
Not very much.
Yeah?
It's not the $50 and $80 million contracts that you see in the big league. You know, it's not very much. It's plenty to live on during the season, but most guys, almost all guys, have to get an off-season job in order to survive. It's definitely not the glamorous life that they're living up there.
Really? You got to love it, huh?
Yep, you have to love it, and you have to kind of see that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because the major leagues are a whole different ballgame.
And is it inconceivable that you could make the big team from where you stand now in spring training?
It's an absolute long shot. You know, there's two minor league camps. There's big league camp and there's minor league camp. The minor league camp starts a week later, and to have a chance at the big club, at least straight out of spring training, you usually have to report with the big league team.
I see.
But there have been several guys in the last few years who have made the major leagues after not going to big league camp that same season. So it definitely happens. You know, it's all about opportunity and taking advantage of it.
How does it feel, though, to be there in the Florida sun on the green grass and put that white uniform on? You wear the Tiger uniform in practice, right?
Yeah. Putting on that Old English tee, there's definitely something special about it. You know, I'm a northern guy, so that first week down there is like vacation. You know, I don't mind running the sprints and taking the comebackers and doing all that stuff, because just to be out on the grass again is a great feeling.
Wow, that must be something now. And we're going to talk with your dad a little later, too. He was in spring training. He went to played seven major league teams, pitched in the All-Star game and all that. And how often do you talk to him about the experience, and what kind of help is he?
We talk about it a lot. You know, right now it's just being ready and what I have to do. As soon as I step on the field, I want to be trying to impress somebody. So it's how to be physically and mentally ready to do that right from the get-go. And then once the season starts, we analyze how I throw and what I did and what went wrong and what went well. So.
How hard can you pitch? How fast can you throw the ball?
Oh, you know, I'll top out at 93, 94, but I mostly sit 89 to 92 range, somewhere in there. I'm not a super hard thrower, a lot like my dad wasn't, more of a sinker ball type pitcher. But I throw a lot of strikes and get a lot of ground balls.
Well, we're excited for you, and we want to keep in touch along the way. We've been following you since you were here at Michigan State, and all of us, every person listening, wishes that they could be out there on the grass next week with the Old English D and the Florida sun, catching fly balls and running them out and all that stuff. And so you're living the dream, and we're very happy for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mark Sorensen on his way to spring training. The other guys who aren't wishing they were on the baseball team are wishing they were playing in the LA Open this week at Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades. It starts today on the PGA Tour. The Pistons snapped their 3-game losing streak with an overtime win yesterday against the Indiana Pacers, 115 to 109. They're off for a few days, and then they return to the court next Tuesday when they host the Houston Rockets. Michigan Wolverines came up short on the road, 54-52 loss to Illinois, and that makes our friend at Meyer, and she knows who she is, very happy. Stacy Beeler, congratulations to you. The Wolverines are back on the road Saturday afternoon when they take on Iowa. Red Wings begin a 3-game road trip tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're facing off a team that is now headed by their former captain and legend Steve Yzerman. This is his first year as general manager of the Lightning. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has to forfeit the pole position because he crashed in the practice session. for the Daytona 500 this weekend. It's 14 before the hour. Michael Patrick Shields, the details of the governor's budget proposal, line by line, when we get back. Stay tuned. It's not as boring as it sounds. It's nice to have both sides of the aisle along. It's nice to have State Senator Mark Jansen for the first time here in our Gillespie Group storefront studio. He's the Republican from Gaines Township. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Ready for the atomic bomb to go off over Lansing today with the budget announcement?
I've heard it was adjusted, but there is going to be a big splash, I think, in this town today.
Yeah. I want to get to that in just a moment, but I want to also share a new poll with you. Voters are just as likely to support the GOP candidate, whoever it is, as they are President Obama in 2012, according to a new survey. Does that surprise you? In other words, they say Republican candidate Barack Obama, and it's a tie.
That is very surprising, yes. I think typically they're waiting for who is that person going to be. It just tells you that folks, the change that was voted in isn't exactly what they thought they got.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're looking and re-looking. And that's pretty exciting for us as Republicans.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Any Republican, according to this poll. Maybe you only go down from there, right, when you start figuring out who it is? I don't know. Let's go through can we go through the budget details a little bit here? Because we have some of them thanks to the Associated
Press. You got more than
Press.
I do. Good.
This maybe it'll surprise you, maybe it won't. The governor wants to drop the individual income tax rate from 4.35% to 4.25%, and it'll remain there instead of going down to 3.9.
It's supposed to incrementally decrease every year. I think it's 0.1%. So he is then asking to freeze it. Is that what he's saying? Okay. All right.
He wants to eliminate the state income tax exemption for pensions, but Social Security benefits will continue to be exempt.
I heard that one yesterday.
Yeah. What do you make of that? You like that?
Well, you know, what I say to people is, listen, you know, retirees made their decisions based upon what they were making whenever they were getting ready to retire. To make us go back and say, I'm going to take away some of that gets a bit challenging, I think, anyway, for seniors. Now, if I'm going to do it into the future, I think that's a better conversation.
Right. So your grandfathered, you would be.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion. I think we have to be careful in that arena. One of the things that I think the legislatures have done in the past, John Engler and some of the others, is basically encouraging seniors to stay in Michigan. And, you know, we do have a lot of them. That money that they get, that's spent in Michigan. And so when you look at those retirements and those dollars, they're spending those dollars in Michigan. So if we're going to, you know, let people get away from Michigan, I'm not sure that's a group we want to let get away from Michigan.
He wants to eliminate the Michigan business tax and replace it with that flat 6% corporate tax on major corporations. That's not a surprise.
That's not a surprise, and I'm on finance tax policy, and I think we're toying around with, okay, what do the numbers really look like? You have to look at the income of businesses, which haven't been very good lately.
Yeah.
So that's a very, I would call it unstable revenue for the state, which if you're ready for that, that's maybe a good conversation. I like the idea of a simpler tax, no doubt about it.
How about eliminating the business credits for films and brownfield development and the mega authority?
That's part of the deal, too. I, again, have a little bit of a challenge and trouble with some of those. You know, to get rid of them maybe today is, again, do you grandfather in the folks that have been approved?
Yeah, commitments will be honored.
Okay.
And he wants to set aside $25 million for film credits from the Jobs Fund. That would sort of cap how much money's going out then, right, as I understand
it? Sounds like it, because right now it's 110, 15, 20 million, depending on who you talk to.
So those are some of the ideas that he wants. Oh, here's one, too. Let's see what you think of this. Setting a lifetime limit of 48 months for residents who receive welfare payments.
All right. You know, that's kind of an older idea. Yes, I think that we have to set a limit on that. That's like anything else in government. You can't always promise it forever. That's, I think, called an entitlement, and we can't afford the, I guess I'd call them entitlements that we used to have here in the state of Michigan.
Cuts per pupil funds $300 in addition to the $170 per pupil reduction that's currently budgeted.
That one will be a challenge. But listen, we have to reduce the cost of doing business as a state, and so whether it's those things, I just appreciate him putting those on the table. I've spent 4 years kind of going upstream, trying to deal with some of these things. I'm excited now that we are heading in the same direction. We'd have to balance our budget.
Well, I mean, he's going to take the political, I don't like to use this term because of what goes on in America now, but he's going to take the political bullet for this.
Oh, yeah.
In front of all of you.
Yeah. Well, just think of the retirees. That's a large group of people. If you're in politics, that's a large voting block of people.
Mhm.
So, he has taken quite a risk here by putting these kinds of things on the table. But I think that's what the citizens voted for in this last election. It's let's quit playing around. We have a lot of work to do. Let's get this done.
We'll see if they really meant it.
Exactly.
Just like President Obama's finding out. Not that change. You have a website for people who want to give their own ideas about reinventing Michigan?
Yeah. I chair a new committee, Reform, Restructuring, and Reinventing, kind of off the campaign this past year or so in the Senate. We decided let's look at other ideas that are out there. And so it's called MyReform, MIReform.com. And what it is put in your name and address, a few odds and ends, and then you say, what's your idea for reform here in the state of Michigan?
You don't even have to drive to the Capitol. Just go to your computer, and someone will guaranteed will look at it.
I have a staff person who is now committed to this because I believe there's going to be ideas out there that have never been thought of before.
Imagine that. Mark Jansen, thank you so much. State Senator, the Republican from Gaines Township. We'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks.
Good luck today at 3 minutes before the hour. It's Michael Patrick Shields all across Michigan. Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields. And in the most recent edition of Judging the Law Schools, Thomas M. Cooley Law School here in Michigan is ranked number 2 in the nation, second to Harvard, but ahead of Yale. Yale came in 10th place. University of Michigan came in 12th place. And Stanford came in 30th place. It's the first time Cooley has cracked the top 10. And the last time the rankings were released, it was number 12. So congratulations to Cooley founder Thomas Brennan. He's the one actually who produces the Judging the Law Schools book. But don't be swayed, because when he first started producing the book, Cooley was ranked 72nd. So something to be proud of here in the Lansing area, but more to the point, in the entire state of Michigan. That's good news. There is going to be news today that won't be good for a lot of people. John Van Fossen is with us, and glad to talk to him again. He's the leader of the Clark Hill Government and Public Affairs Group. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Michael Patrick.
Governor's budget proposal is going to be announced later today. I don't know if you've seen any of the Associated Press story, but we do have some of the details of what he's going to say. Would you like to first give me your overall thoughts, and then maybe we can go line by line?
Sure, no, that'd be great. I mean, today's an exciting day, I think, for since the election. The governor's been talking about making some substantial changes and some significant reforms to the state. There's some information that's already starting to leak. They've been pretty clear that what they're going to propose is going to be painful in some regards, but provide new opportunity. So I think everybody's been long waiting to see what the governor's going to propose and how the legislature and how the people of Michigan are going to react.
What is the most painful leak that you've heard?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of issues regarding, tax reform, which I think is very positive. Eliminating the Michigan business tax, 6% flat corporate income tax. However, that does generate a greater deficit for the state to deal with. I think the legislature will have to come to terms with, how are they going to offset that without raising new revenues and new sources. I think the new $200 million cut to revenue sharing to cities is going to be pretty significant, as well as I think today or last night they announced a pretty substantial cut in the per pupil funding in K-12. But I do think that there's a lot of things those organizations and those units of government can do to offset those losses. There's a lot of reforms on the table, when health care, consolidation, binding arbitration for police and fire. So the good thing is everybody's willing to put everything on the table and see what's the best formula going forward.
I'm glad you brought up that per pupil cut in funding. It's $300 in addition to the currently budgeted $170 per pupil reduction. When I just a few minutes ago had State Senator Mark Jansen in here, the Republican, he winced at the idea of that, and he said, wow, that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it is. Not sure what the strategy is, if it's to, get out there with everything that's going to, and then force the debate. What's the solution? and how far can you go will be the real question. I believe if several years ago when the MBT debate was going on, if the legislature could have passed a flat 6% corporate income tax and absorbed that deficit without making those substantial cuts and not raising new revenues, they probably would have done that. So I think it's going to be a challenge. There's not an appetite for new taxes. And if this is somewhat of an opportunity to open up that debate, I don't think it will be met very well by the legislature or by the people of the state.
He wants to close.
But there was some positive news yesterday. The privately owned bridge, the Ambassador Bridge, made a substantial offer to the state to help offset its road funding deficit issues, to provide for the ability for the state to draw down federal money. So at least the private sector, in some regards, particularly with the Ambassador Bridge, it's nice to see the private sector, Michigan-based, businesses stepping up to do their part and try to make Michigan better.
He wants to close a prison. They don't say which one. They'll say it later in the year, I guess. And he wants to privatize food service in prisons. That's something that other states have done, something we've heard about for a long time now. I guess that means a reduction in jobs for state workers, too, then, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think one of the best opportunities is allowing the public employees, and you see this in other states and in other kind of smaller municipalities, they give them an opportunity to bid on the services. If they can compete with the private sector, great. Privatization works in a lot of respects, and in some cases, I'm not saying the governor's plan with privatizing food service and corrections will or won't work, but putting that out there and having the opportunity for people to become efficient and competitive is a good thing.
What about the elimination of 300 field worker positions in the Department of Human Services? That it might not sound like a lot, but what are those 300 people doing now, and what sort of impact would that have if they're not there?
I'm not familiar with that one. Obviously, it's it's going to raise the debate on the quality and the type of services the state wants to provide, particularly in the areas of social services and in the safety net. Obviously, there's a great deal. There's a lot of issues that have been out there in that department for a long, long, long time. Whether the management issues need to be attended to from an employee side, and the services that they do provide are essential. There seems to be an opportunity here that the governor is just going to present. Here is everything. If you want to go down this direction, this is what it's going to take. And now, obviously, there will be constituencies and organizations and people, affiliated with these budget cuts and tax proposals. They're going to have a negative reaction. It's going to be their responsibility to communicate with their legislature on the importance of those issues, and then it's going to be the responsibility of the legislature and the governor to really come up with what's the negotiated compromise. I have a hard time believing that anybody gets everything that they want and that they first propose. So, but they have an aggressive timetable to move as much of this, I think, by the 1st of June.
Yeah.
So it'll be fascinating to watch the political process in action.
Fascinating to watch and fascinating to listen to, and we'll do that every morning, as politics is our family business, and we appreciate you weighing in ahead of the governor's announcement today, and we'll talk again soon.
Hey, thank you, Michael.
John Van Fossen, Clark Hill's Government and Public Affairs Group head. Well, you heard me say earlier that if President Obama were to run today against a Republican, any Republican, it would be a dead heat tie. 45% would vote for Obama, 45% would vote for any Republican. So he's got some way to go if he's going to get reelected, President Obama. Yesterday, President Obama introduced his new White House spokesperson. Now, these White House spokespeople, they meet with the press every day because the president's too busy to do that, and they try to answer the questions and help the press understand what the president is thinking and so forth. You would think it's a very high-profile job to stand there and speak for the president of the United States, the leader of the free world. And the fella who is the new press secretary is Jay Carney. He used to write for Time magazine, and this is what he said yesterday in front of the press on his first day on the job about his job.
I work to promote the president and the messages he's trying to convey to the American people.
Now, do you think that that he was nervous, or is the spokesperson for the leader of the free world really putting his best foot forward? And I don't mean to be picky. We all have little tics when we talk and we say things, you know, the uhs and the ahs, and we repeat things and all that. But this isn't it, the most high-profile position for a spokesperson? And I know we have lots of spokespeople listening right now, lots of lobbyists and PR people and so forth. So this is Jay Carney again on day one in front of the White House press corps.
I work to promote the president and the messages he's trying to convey to the American people.
A little bit, I don't know if it's cautious or it's nervous, but it seems like he'd be able to put on a little bit of a better performance than that. Performance with the Cadillac CTS, well, 44,000 of them are being recalled because of a problem that could cause a rear wheel to loosen. Almost all of the vehicles affected are 2009 Cadillac CTS, but the few dozen 2010 vehicles are being recalled as well. There have been 4 complaints since May. No injuries or fatalities been reported, but they want to make sure that if you're driving the CTS, you're going to be safe in it. Auto dealerships in the U.S. saw their profits leap by 50 to 60% last year. Consulting group Urban Science credited the rise to a lower number of dealers and, of course, higher sales. General Motors closed a number of dealerships during its bankruptcy and restructuring. That left Ford with the most dealerships of any car maker. For the first time in recent history, the average dealership sold 656 vehicles last year. That's a 16% increase over 2009. I am driving right now the 2009 Chevy Trailblazer from Cheryl Freeborough's Hyundai of Lansing. Test driving it, but you can buy it for less than the Blue Book value. It's got 33,000 miles on it, and it's only $18,795. Do you realize brand new, that's more than $30,000? It's black. It's a lot of fun, and it's parked right in front of our Gillespie Group storefront studio if you want to have a look at it. If you're anywhere in the state, just go to HyundaiofLansing.com on their website. You can see it. You can buy it. They'll even deliver it to you. And they're going to take it away from me if you buy it. It's a lot of fun. Great car. 18 minutes after the hour. Back in a flash. Well, we just got off the phone with Mark Sorensen last hour. He is in the Tiger farm system, but he's going to report Monday. But pitchers and catchers and all the players are arriving at Lakeland, Florida. When do the announcers arrive? That's the big question. And Dan Dickerson, who is the Tigers play-by-play man on radio all across the state of Michigan, is I don't know if he's there yet or not, but he's on the other end of our line. Good morning to you.
Michael, our off-season workouts go a little bit longer than the players. We need a little more time to get in shape, so we'll be reporting next week.
Me. Is that what you do? I would think after a baseball season that you would just want to go home and not talk to anybody for a couple of months. Is that how it works?
Just your family, yeah. You just want to hang out with your family and do a lot of nothing for a little bit. That's right.
And not describe anything, right?
Not describe anything.
Seriously, though, I mean, how many years have you been now in that position as the play-by-play?
This is 12, believe it or not.
Yeah, can you believe it? I mean, has 12 years gone by quickly or not?
Yes, yeah, it really has. I mean, the job is so fun that the years, I think the years go, at my age, the years go by quick anyway, but the job does make it fun, and I think that moves things along as well.
It can't be easy, and what I mean by that is, how do you go day after day after day? They call them the dog days of summer. Even the players have those sorts of days, right, where it's just... but at you, given the job as the announcer, have to make it interesting, have to make it exciting. I mean, how do you get through those middle of the season days, right?
There are a couple of things. I mean, I remember my first year writing in my scorebook, Tigers, game number, and you write game number 1, and you think, oh my gosh, there's 161 more after this.
Yeah.
And then I realized after I did it for a few years, you just can't think of how many more games there are. You're thinking that this is one game, and then there'll be another game tomorrow, basically every day, and you just can't look ahead. And the other thing I think that really helped, I mean, I always go back to the advice I got from Ernie Harwell my very first year in the job. The Tigers it was my first year. The Tigers were off to a 9-23 start. I wondered, how do you do it when the team's no good?
Mm-hmm.
And, just a reminder from Ernie that every game stands on its own. There are people tuning in. Sometimes there's a lot more tuning in when they're winning than listening. But there's somebody tuning in. So give them a reason to listen to that game. You might see a great game between two bad teams. You might see a great individual performance. You might see something you've never seen before. Simple advice, but I'll tell you, Mike, it served me very well through those lean years in 01, 02, 03, and it reminded you why you love baseball.
Yeah, I guess, you feel that the town has a little more spring in its step when you're able to announce in the morning that the Tigers won yesterday, or in the evening when they're watching the news or whatever, even if they're not in the race. Just feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I think that's why the drama of a pennant race is unlike the race in any other sport, just because it is every day. And if the Tigers lost a tough one last night, you know that they've got a chance to turn it right around tonight. If they fell out of first place last night, they might be able to get right back in first place tonight. So I think that is the beauty of it, and that's the allure of a pennant drive or a drive for the division title. And I think we're going to see that this summer.
Too, there are young kids who are making maybe their first ever appearance down there at Comerica Park to see the Tigers. They don't care what place they're in. They just want to have a win and they want to have some fun. And some of them are listening to you on the radio on the way in or on the way home, or they're maybe listening to you 2 days before, getting excited about it. So in the end, you're more than just a reporter or a play-by-play man. You're an entertainer.
Oh, I think so, yeah. I mean, you hope whatever is going on in the game, you hope you've got something that can keep people listening. When it's 8-2 in the third inning, and maybe the Tigers are having a rough night, you give them a reason to listen to the rest of the game. You hope you can do that.
Ken Kal has had trouble from time to time, and he speaks with us fairly often with his voice. You ever lost your voice toward the end of the season?
Don't even bring it up.
It's a jinx?
No, I feel like it's a jinx. I've been lucky. I've lost my voice in the wintertime. When I used to do Michigan basketball, I remember I lost it for a couple of games. It's a horrible feeling because, this is, it's kind of your instrument, so to speak, and when you're even off a little bit, it just doesn't feel right. There are nights when you're off a little bit because you've got a cold or something and nobody would notice, but you notice, and you notice that you can't hit the high notes, so to speak.
Yeah.
You can't give it quite what you want, but no, when you lose your voice entirely like Ken did, you just feel for the guy. It's just awful. And there's no remedy works as far as I know. If somebody knows one, I'd love to hear it because I've tried everything.
What about, does Comerica Park have a restroom reasonably nearby if you have to run down the hall? Because I remember Ernie Harwell's perch, and it wasn't very convenient to get to the...
No, it wasn't. No, they took good care of us. Don't worry. We're in good shape there.
Now, how excited can we be this year? I know it's spring, and everybody likes to get excited, and Sparky Anderson used to always have us excited about the next Mickey Mantle or the team. How excited can we allow ourselves to be this year?
I think Tiger fans can allow themselves to be pretty excited. And think about, like 2008, everybody was over the top excited, including myself, and that turned out to be, just a dud of a season. But this season to me is different because I think there's great balance on this team from top to bottom. It is a team put together to win the division. And I think the balance is what I start with. And when I look at the Central Division race, I always think of rotations. Who's got the deepest rotation? That's where you start. I'm very much looking at run prevention as much as run scoring, and I think the Tigers have a staff that can do that. I think potentially it's the best 1 through 5. Right now, I'd say it's the best 1 through 3 with Verlander, Scherzer, and Porcello, and then I think Koch and Perry kind of hold the key. Koch going from the bullpen to the rotation, and Penny is coming in after an injury-shortened year. He pitched very well, but only 9 starts. But believe me, Brad Penny could be a big, big part of what the Tigers do this year. He's good.
So what is life in Lakeland like? We have this vision as we sit here in Gray, Michigan, and we think about the sun shining on those bright white uniforms and the green grass, and we figure everyone's sneaking around a golf in or getting on a boat here or there or something. It sounds like...
pretty accurate.
Is it? It sounds like a great vacation.
Are you down there for 5 weeks? There have been weeks that I've been down there, or springs that I've been down there where it has literally not rained a drop for 5 weeks. I'm not sure there's a better time to be in Florida than the month of March. I mean, it's not humid, it's not too hot, it's 70 or 80. It seems like every day, if it's 60s, you complain that it's cold. It's a great spot. Lakeland's a neat little town. It's got a little history to it.
Yeah.
A lot of history to it. I stay about 20 minutes away in a house that I've been renting now for 11 years. And but it's a great time to be down there. The ballpark, if people haven't been down there, it's become, in my opinion, a destination trip for anybody going to spring training because they redid it about 7-8 years ago, and it's just a beauty. It's the design is really neat. There's a grassy area, a berm in left field where people sit, and that's one of the more popular spots I think in any ballpark that I go to down in Florida. Not a bad way to kill an afternoon. Lay out on the lawn, spread your blanket out, soak up some sun, occasionally wake up to see a ball game.
Yeah, it is neat, and the town is neat. And I remember, back when I worked for JP, we would call Sparky Anderson in spring training, and we'd call him at 7:30, and we'd have to call the Green Tree Restaurant in the Holiday Inn, and his routine was the same every single morning. We'd ask for the restaurant, someone would get him to the phone, and on he would go. And so you got all that history, there too when you're around the club, and we're excited for you, and excited that you get to be in Florida and you get to be with the Tigers. And I suppose too, you see the stories that we don't of some of the people who are there hoping to make the bigs, and sometimes their dreams don't work out.
Yeah, and that is one of the fun things for me is that you go down a few days before the first broadcast, and you know who's been invited to the big league camp, and then the caravan is kind of where that starts.
Mm-hmm.
The caravan was last month, and they got to talk to some guys that I hadn't talked to, like a Jacob Turner or Cale Orridge, who to me is such an interesting story. He's not going to make the team, but he remains somebody the Tigers hope can pan out. He's had a tough time in the minor leagues, but here's a young man who went on a Mormon mission for 2 years to Portugal and didn't pick up a baseball for 2 years because he so strongly believed in what he was doing. And he was an extremely talented player, and he's trying to get it back. And I had a great conversation with him during the caravan about he finally feels like after 3 years it's maybe coming back to where he was. So those are the kinds of stories that you really enjoy, getting to know some of these young men. And like you said, not all are going to make the team and may never make the major leagues, but they're in camp, they're in big league camp, and that's exciting.
You get along with Jim Leland okay?
I do. He's one of my favorite personalities, Michael. He's just, some days he'll blow right by you with a gruff hello, and other days he'll stop and chat, and it doesn't matter either way. I love being around him. I love his baseball knowledge. He's got a personality that I think is life-size. I mean, he has such a feel for how to run a baseball team, such incredible baseball knowledge, and such an ability to relate to people of all ages. He's a fascinating person. I love being able to interview him every home game for the Manager's Show.
And that's another challenge, too, trying to find interesting questions for all those games. And Dan,
believe me, I'm thinking the night that I drive home from a game, I'm thinking of my questions for the next day.
Well, congratulations on another season, and great to hear your voice again, and have a terrific time in Lakeland, Florida. We'll talk again soon.
All right, Michael, good talking with you.
Dan Dickerson, the play-by-play man for the Detroit Tigers. London Calling world correspondent Nikki Hale in our Gillespie Group storefront studio here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and a happy, unusual Thursday, I guess, for
It
me.
is. It's warm, too, isn't it? It's either the groundhog was right or this is a terrible tease.
I think a tease.
Has London been calling with your invitation to the royal wedding yet?
You know what? I was very disappointed to hear that, I think it was last week, they said all the invitations are out, and if you didn't get it, you're not going. And I'm like, I didn't get one.
Do you think it's possibly still on the way? Can we hold out some hope?
Because I'm across, over the seas.
Yeah.
Maybe. But, hope is always a happy thing, right?
Well, I mean, there's got to be some room for you. It'll be at Westminster Abbey, will it not?
Right, it will. It's a big place, right?
We saw it in the King's Speech. It's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll stay tuned. Now, the royal wedding details, though. The invitations may not be coming, but the details keep coming, and Prince Harry has been chosen as the best man.
Yes, isn't that lovely? I actually like that. They're keeping it very traditional, so Kate's youngest sister will be her maid of honor, and then they will have lots of flower girls. And a lot of people here look at, little kids walking down the aisle with the bride. How does that... That's a very common thing in the UK.
It is, but maybe not at royal weddings.
No, but I think she's trying to keep it common not to use that word.
You're going to have a
but-
7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and it's going to be. Are we suggesting that maybe it won't be as stiff and staid as normal? It might be more fun.
Yes, I'm hoping, and that's going to bring it down to the public level, because that's what you would usually see. If, for example, if I got married in England, that's what I would do. Look at nieces, nephews, I invite them, and they would be behind me and whatnot. So.
Now, Prince Harry is the best man. He's Prince William's younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He would be 3rd in line to the throne.
Correct.
Until and if Kate and William have an heir.
Yes.
That would bump back Prince Harry.
Yes.
Someone's going to have to keep their eye on him at this wedding, though, are they not?
Well, I don't think that's the concern. I think the concern is the stag do.
Stag
now-
do is a translation for bachelor party.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So now the concern is, how wild is Harry really going to go? Because he's known for his partying ways, although he's quietened down in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, but this is a wedding. I mean, after all, you know what
and
happens
it's his
at
brother.
weddings.
It's a celebration, isn't it? So
Somewhere I saw that shortly after they're married, a month or two later, they're going to be going to Canada. They've accepted an invitation post honeymoon trip to Canada, and they're going to be there June 30th through July 8th. So they'll be here during the American Independence Day anyway.
yes.
Alberta, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, and the Northwest Territories.
And supposedly the Canadians are very excited because that could be their future king. Because
Commonwealth country.
correct. Yes.
All right, so they're going to be, they'll be very fashionable, too, after all this attention in the wedding, don't you think? They'll make
Yes.
news
Oh,
everywhere
yeah,
they go.
I think so. It's going to be probably a good year for them. Anywhere they go, they're going to get a lot of publicity. So, and hopefully it'll boost, the charities that they work for.
Is she ready for it?
I don't know.
How could anyone be ready for
I don't
that?
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things. You go from being, yes, we know you're Prince William's girlfriend, to all of a sudden now you're possibly the future queen, and everything she does is being watched and monitored. I mean, it's got to be quite a change, to her lifestyle. So
I wonder if the royal family has seen the movie The King's Speech and what they think of it.
Well, I think, wasn't it Diana's brother?
Yeah.
Spencer.
He told me he had.
He had seen it, yeah.
He was in Michigan. He was on the program. He thought the movie was entertaining.
Right.
He was a little dubious about some of the details, but
Yeah.
he just got engaged last week, too.
Yes, I saw that.
How
Exactly.
about that?
Yeah, fantastic news. The one thing I saw was an interview with Helen Bonham Carter,
Mhm.
and she was actually concerned about playing this particular queen because it's the queen mum, right? It was
Yeah.
very recent.
Yeah.
So she was very concerned about how she was going to portray that, and
Mhm.
she said this is the first time, 'cause she's played lots of queens or royalty in her career, and she was quite concerned about how she was going to do it, making sure that she didn't overdo it or underdo it for that matter, because there's a very particular way that the family was back in those days.
Mhm.
So I think they took a lot of care and a lot of research in that. But I think if somebody was portraying you, you would be critical of certain areas of what.
I've seen
I
it.
mean, nobody's going to make it you. It's not you. So.
Yeah, I had that experience with that TLC show, Left at the Altar.
Oh, yes,
and
absolutely, I saw that.
They did a reenactment, dramatization, and they picked the guy. I didn't think he looked like me at all, and he certainly didn't act like me in the thing.
No.
It was on again the other night, and they showed him gardening. Can you really picture me gardening?
No, I would have been a pub.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. The Rose and Crown or something like that.
Right,
anyway.
there you go.
So that'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, and if the King's Speech will get the sweep at the Academy Awards that we're talking about.
Did you catch the BAFTAs on Sunday, which
No.
is the British Film Academy
How did that go?
Awards? It was a sweep. It was
King's
ridiculous.
Speech.
It was. Every single award, except for two. One went to The Social Network and one went to Inception.
Mhm.
Inception obviously was the degree of graphics and things that they did was crazy. But yeah, they got pretty much everything you can think of. Best actor, best actress, or best supporting actress, best film,
Mhm.
da-da-da-da-da. So
I thought Helen Bonham Carter, you'd mentioned, I thought she did a nice job playing the Queen Mum, and I thought it was kind of funny the second time, because I've seen it twice now. She alludes to, I'm getting so plump. And she's nowhere near as plump as the Queen Mother ended up being.
Right.
But I thought that was nice foreshadowing they did.
Yes, exactly. And I think she feels though she's played lots of different queens, and she was even joking at the BAFTAs that she's played queens with big heads, little tiny heads, because
Yeah,
she played
that's right.
on Alice in Wonderland. She
That's
was the
right.
Queen of Hearts. So she said it seems to be that next thing should be the Pinhead Queen or something. So she was quite lighthearted about
Real
it.
quickly, because you're in banking, stores can't ask for the zip codes anymore at the time of purchase?
No, because they're able to identify where you live and send you unwanted information or
Good.
mark it to you. So
I
that's
hate that.
California pushing the way.
I hate that when you buy something and they want to know, I just want to buy something. I don't need to give you all my information.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Nikki Hale, world correspondent, waiting for her invitation to the royal wedding. Nice to have you with us on this unseasonably warm Thursday morning. We're going to test that theory, though. We're going to Marquette today, and we'll be live tomorrow morning from the UP 200. It's a dog sled race that goes right through the center of Marquette. Thanks to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan for inviting us up there. And so there'll be lots of legislators there and lawmakers, too, and we'll be interviewing them tomorrow morning with their reaction. The governor himself will join us tomorrow, too, after he does his budget proposal today. We've been hearing lots of the details. Tonight, we'll have the result for you, too. Northwestern's coming to the Breslin Center in East Lansing to play the Michigan State women's basketball team at 7 o'clock. And you can, you get tickets for that one if you want to after that big weekend they had. A sellout crowd at the Breslin Center for the women's team. People are still talking about that. The LA Open starts today at Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades, California. It's a very traditional spot and stop on the PGA Tour. And the Pistons won yesterday, snapped a 3-game losing streak with an overtime win against the Indiana Pacers at the Palace. They got some time off now and for the All-Star break, and they return to the Palace next Tuesday when they host the Houston Rockets. Wolverines came up short on the road yesterday, a 54-52 loss to Illinois. The Wolverines now are 16-11 overall, 6-8 in Big Ten play, and Stacy Beeler was cheering all the way at Meyer Corporation in West Michigan. The Wolverines are back on the road Saturday afternoon when they take on Iowa. The Red Wings begin a 3-game road trip tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. What's unusual about that? Well, they're facing off against a team that is now run by Steve Yzerman, who spent his whole career as the Detroit Red Wing. He's the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has to forfeit his pole position for the Daytona 500 Sunday. He crashed in the practice session, and his team is going to have to use a backup car. He had won the pole. No more. And Tiger outfielder Cleet Thomas says he's ready to go after missing most of last season following a microfracture surgery on his knee. And that is a look at sports, brought to you this morning by me. Congressman Bill Huizenga from West Michigan is talking to us on the telephone right now, an old-fashioned device where people could actually speak to each other before the modern age. Isn't that funny? Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, MPS. How are you?
I
suppose I could Twitter you or Facebook you, but it'd be a little hard to pick up the audio.
Yeah, I hear you're completely wired. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and you're reaching out to your constituents, and they are answering you, aren't they?
They are. One of the things that we've been asking for is photos from around the district. We've gotten some great ones. We've gotten some interesting ones. We had somebody's solar panel out of their backyard. We've had over 200 people submit photos, and we're kind of going through that. And we want to use that as sort of a rolling backdrop onto our website, so people can get a little more familiar with the other parts of the district. So it's been fun.
Wow, I mean that's something that we might not expect from a congressman, that their office would have the time to connect through what's considered sort of new media, but it's the way you have to go these days, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and you know this as well. I mean, you've got I'm sure you've got listeners that are either listening to you on the web and they're contacting you with through Facebook and all these other social media things, and it's frankly it's somewhat generational as well. If you're not doing this with the 30 and under crowd, you might as well not exist, basically. So this is definitely how at the wise old age here of 42, I'm having to make sure that I'm connecting with young people now, but. It's the way to go. It's frankly, it saves a ton of money as we're emailing people back or receiving their emails. It saves their dollars. It saves their tax dollars because we're not necessarily having to use stamps and printing and all that stuff. So it's a great way to go.
The not the great way to go is the way that the president wants to take America with his budget announcement on Monday. You're not keen on that at all, I understand.
I think that would be the understatement of the morning. This is Yeah, we heard some optimistic rhetoric, it turns out, unfortunately, coming out during the State of the Union address. I think that the president had an opportunity, and frankly, he missed the opportunity, especially when it comes to our entitlement spending and the issues that we have. He does not touch that at all in this budget. We're really sort of nibbling around the edges, and we're sitting today at $14 trillion in debt. Over the next 10 years, his proposed budget would make that an additional $13 trillion, for a total of $27 trillion. It's not sustainable. We cannot do this. And you know, we've been going through the last 2 days. They went till 3:45 this morning, going through over 700 amendments to the continuing resolution, which is going to cut $100 billion out of the current fiscal year. And you know, you're hearing rhetoric like draconian cuts. It's going to put our economy into a tailspin. All this other rhetoric that's out there, and it's like, wait, excuse me, just a second. We have a $1.3 trillion deficit for this year, and we're going to take $100 billion, and that's going to throw us into a tailspin. Our long-term health of our economy is at stake here, and we just can't kick the can down the road any further. We run out of road, Michael. I mean, there's no place to go other than having to rein this all in.
All right. It might be interesting for you to know the Gallup poll shows that if the election were today, President Obama versus any Republican, no name, just any Republican, it's a tie. It's a dead heat. And maybe that kind of, that kind of dubious financial planning is one of the reasons. Television viewers, thanks for being with us. And adios and via con Dios to your congressman from West Michigan, Bill Huizenga, who you can find online. You can find us, too, at MichiganTalkNetwork.com. Radio listeners, go nowhere. Stay here. I'll be back. It's Michael Patrick Shields.